Listen, the testing is the spreader, and the tuberculosis and COVID-19 are related. Back in the 1940s, they were doing testing of tuberculin to find out who was going to have a reaction. Now, these tests were similar to the ones that we see today. All right? In this report that I got off of, one of my websites, the government websites, all right, it says quantitative studies of the tuberculin reaction. And it says it's a common practice to consider that tuberculin tests within the limits of dosage ordinarily employed will detect all persons who are capable of reacting to tuberculin. So their plan was to see who reacts to the tuberculin, just like they're seeing who reacts to the COVID-19 when they stick that test, whatever they call it. I've never had one. I'm not going to get one up your nose. The plan of study, material and methods. The plan of study. The general plan of the study was to test the members of several different population groups, usually the minorities and the middle class, poor, or, whatever, employing a graduated series of increasing concentration of tuberculin. Thus, all of the persons in a particular group were tested initially with an exceedingly dilute concentration of tuberculin. Those who did not show a reaction to this test was retested 4 days later with a more concentrated solution. Those who still failed to have a reaction were tested again with a higher concentration. This procedure was continued step by step, eliminating the reactors and retesting the non-reactors with a more concentrated solution until either all those tested reacted or the largest dose in the graduated series was given. And this is from the National Institute of Health. That's Dr. Fauci, okay? He might not have been doing it back then, but this is the new tuberculin, COVID-19. This is the same people, all right? Back in the 1940s, my mother had part of her lung removed because she had tuberculosis, all right? And so lung disease and tuberculosis are related. It says, Global Tuberculosis Program, our response to COVID-19. Tuberculosis and COVID-19 are both infectious diseases that attack primarily the lungs. From the World Health Organization, it says tuberculosis and COVID-19. It says people ill with COVID-19 and TB show similar symptoms such as a cough, fever, difficulty breathing, all of that. Okay, so when they're testing you with this COVID-19, they are giving you something so that they can see your reaction and see how well your antibodies do. So they're testing for antibodies as well. Now, these new vaccinations are going to consist of melanin. Because in the other report that I talked about, it says that your host immune system, melanin and vitamin D3 is what you need in order to fight this, all right? But the projected report was saying that what I told you, by 2025, oh, I didn't tell you that one. They said by 2025, 6.35 million cases of tuberculosis during 2020 and 2025. People will be expected with the COVID-19 infection and TB cases will soar. All right? So some of these phases, they tested people to see how they would do during the warm, hot seasons. And now they're going into the dark winter to find out how people are going to react to the cold And they're going to be starving people all across the nations. All right? Starvation mode. All right? That's why they want to cut people off of their unemployment. But also connected to it are the ventilators. Bloomberg, all right? And it says, and this was back in 2019. This is their projection. It says the extracorporeal membrane oxygenation market will hit $370 million by 2025. Okay? It says the U.S. market will witness considerable growth during the forecast time frame to reach U.S. dollars 113 million by 2025. Rising incidence of respiratory and cardiac disorders will act as a major driving factor for the growth of the U.S. market. Advanced healthcare facilities, increasing government funding, and high technological adoption will propel the business growth over the projected time frame 2020 to 2025. And the China ventilation membrane market will expand as well during the forecast time period, with a number of respiratory and cardiac patients. All right. And then it goes on to talk about how back in June, how they got some organs, okay? And they're thanking the Bloomberg ECMO machines for that lucrative business. It says that the business is booming and China is not just ridding itself of troublesome minorities, it is profiting mightily in the process. So when they're telling you that they want to go into these black neighborhoods and test the minorities, and they want black people to get on board with this testing and tracking and tracing, and then they're down there trying to get your pastors and everybody involved in trying to get you to go get these vaccinations and go test with these vaccinations. I'm telling you, they shooting up. Now they got HIV involved, all right? So you don't know what you're getting. But I'm telling you, this testing and tracking and tracing, they are trying to see your reaction to tuberculosis. I'm out of time, but please stay away from these testing places. Get these testing places out of our communities because they're driving the numbers up. They're driving the numbers up. When you test negative one day, you might test positive the next day for COVID-19. And then your immune system has to take over, or else you will contract the whole disease. Thank you.